The two skyscrapers who decided to have a child. Once in the village of Liver and Onions, two skyscrapers stood across the street from each other. In the daylight, when the streets poured full of people buying and selling, these two skyscrapers talked with each other the same as mountains talk. In the night-time, when all the people buying and selling were gone home, and there were only policemen and taxicab drivers on the streets, in the night when a mist crept up the streets and threw a purple and gray wrapper over everything, in the night when the stars in the sky shook out sheets of purple and gray mist down over the town, then the two skyscrapers leaned toward each other and whispered. Whether they whispered secrets to each other, or whether they whispered simple things that you and I know and everybody knows, that is their secret. One thing is sure, they often were seen leaning toward each other and whispering in the night, the same as mountains lean and whisper in the night. High on the roof of one of the skyscrapers was a tin brass goat looking out across prairies, looking out across silver blue lakes shining like blue porcelain breakfast plates, looking out across silver snakes of winding rivers in the morning sun. And high on the roof of the other skyscraper was a tin brass goose looking out across prairies and silver blue lakes shining like blue porcelain breakfast plates and looking out across silver snakes of winding rivers in the morning sun. Now the northwest wind was a friend of the two skyscrapers, coming so far, coming 500 miles in a few hours, coming so fast always, while the skyscrapers were standing still, standing always on the same old street corners. The northwest wind was a bringer of news. "Well, I see the city is here yet." "Yes, and are the mountains standing yet way out yonder where you come from, Wind?" "Yes, the mountains are there yonder, and farther yonder is the sea, and the railroads are still going, still running across the prairie, to the mountains, to the sea." Now, there was a promise, a pledge made by the northwest wind to the two skyscrapers. Often the northwest wind shook the tin brass goat and shook the tin brass goose on top of the skyscrapers. Are you going to blow loose the tin brass goat on my roof? Are you going to blow loose the tin brass goose on my roof? "Oh, no," the northwest wind laughed. "If ever I blow loose your tin brass goat, and if ever I blow loose your tin brass goose, it will be when I am sorry for you, because you are up against hard luck, and there is somebody's funeral." So time passed on, and the two skyscrapers stood with their feet among the policemen and the taxicabs and the people buying and selling, the customers with parcels, packages, and bundles, while away high on their roofs stood the goat and the goose, looking out across silver blue lakes like blue porcelain breakfast plates and silver snakes of winding rivers in the morning sun. So time passed on, and the northwest wind kept coming, telling the news and making promises. Time passed on, and the two skyscrapers decided to have a child. And they decided when their child came, it should be a free child. "It must be a free child," they said to each other. "It must not be a child standing all its life on a street corner. Yes, if we have a child, she must be free to run across the prairie, to the mountains, to the sea. Yes, it must be a free child." So time passed on. Their child came. It was a railroad train. The Golden Spike Limited, the fastest long-distance train in the Rutabaga country. It ran across the prairie, to the mountains, to the sea. They were glad, the two skyscrapers were, glad to have a free child running away from the big city, far away to the mountains, far away to the sea, running as far as the farthest mountains and sea coasts touched by the northwest wind. They were glad their child was useful, glad their child was carrying 1,000 people 1,000 miles a day. So when people spoke of the Golden Spike Limited, they spoke of it as a strong, lovely child. Then time passed on, and there came a day when the newsboys, the newsies, yelled as though they were crazy. Ya, ya, blah, blah, yo, yo. The yelling of the newsies came so strong the skyscrapers listened and heard the newsies yammering. All about the great train wreck, all about the Golden Spike disaster, many lives lost, many lives lost. And the northwest wind came howling a slow, sad song. If ever I blow loose your tin brass goat, if ever I blow loose your tin brass goose, it will be when I am sorry for you, because you are up against hard luck, and there is somebody's funeral. Late that afternoon, a crowd of policemen, taxicab drivers, newsies, and customers with bundles all stood around talking and wondering about two things next to each other in the middle of the street. One was a tin brass goat. The other was a tin brass goose, and they lay next to each other on the streetcar track in the middle of the street.